Forget high-speed trains and modern stations. Today, we are boarding on a journey into the past. On tracks that date back over a century, the Canfranero train moves slowly, winding through breathtaking mountain landscapes and historic villages. A ride that feels more like time travel than 21st century transport, and a real treat for train lovers. The Canfranero is the regional train linking Zaragoza, the capital of Aragon, with the mountain town of Canfranc Station near the French border. The line has just reopened after nearly 2 years of major upgrades, and we couldn't resist hopping on from our hometown Zaragoza to show you exactly what this unforgettable ride is like. Hola, ¿qué tal? Hello, welcome to the channel where we want you to be happier traveling through Spain and Portugal with the help of our self-guided walking tours. Let's start with the map. The entire journey takes place in Aragon, an autonomous community in northern Spain, right below the French border. The Canfranero, which is an informal term by the way, is a train that links two provinces within Aragon, Zaragoza and Huesca. It departs from Zaragoza's Delicias station and travels just over 200 kilometers or 124 miles all the way to the legendary Canfranc station in the Pyrenees. The trip takes about 3 hours and 20 minutes. And why so long? The train runs at very low speeds through much of the route and makes frequent stops to serve the small towns and villages along the way. This is not a fast train, it's a scenic historical ride through rural Aragon. Today, trains connect Spain and France through Irún in the west in the Basque Country and Portbou in the east in Catalonia. But for part of the 20th century, Canfranc offered a third rail crossing right through the heart of the Pyrenees. So beyond the mountain views, there's a deep historical layer to this trip. Riding the Canfranero means traveling along what was once a major international rail link, a story we'll return to when we reach Canfranc station itself. The Canfranero is operated by Renfe, and today we are riding on a Series 594 train, commonly known as TRD or Regional Diesel Train. It can reach speeds of up to 160 km per hour, that's 100 miles per hour, though it rarely hits that on this route. The train has just 2 carriages with a total of 124 reclining seats, which are surprisingly comfortable. You will find both standard pair seating and some seats arranged around tables, great if you are traveling with company. There's air conditioning on board, though it can feel a bit weak on a very hot day. There's also space for luggage and bicycles, and you will find 2 toilets, one standard and one adapted for passengers with reduced mobility. Above the seats, there's a tray for smaller bags or personal items. One important thing to keep in mind, there are no power outlets on board, so if you are planning to use your phone for photos, videos, or check the maps, make sure to bring a fully charged power bank. Our trip begins at Zaragoza Delicias station, a large, modern station shared by local, regional, and high-speed trains. You can board the Canfranero here or at several other stations along the line. For us, part of the appeal was doing the full route from start to finish. If you are visiting Zaragoza, this is a very doable and unique day trip. As usual, we checked the monitors to find the departure track. When we arrived at the station, it wasn't yet listed, but the Canfranero almost always leaves from the same spot. Walk to the right of the access gates for high-speed trains and head toward the area for tracks 5 to 8. You will walk a bit, and once you reach that section, check the monitors again. The Canfranero typically departs from track 6. You will go down a ramp to the platform and can board the train as soon as the doors open, usually a few minutes before departure. You can sit wherever you like, tickets do not include seat reservations. One thing that might surprise you, there is no barrier to enter the platform and no ticket check at the station. But don't worry, your ticket will be checked on board by an attendant once the train is underway. Now, let's talk about where to sit. There are great views on both sides of the train, but the most spectacular scenery, especially in the Pyrenees mountains, is on the left-hand side of the train. But here's the twist. We recommend sitting on the right-hand side, facing backwards when you leave Zaragoza. And why? Because when the train reaches Huesca, it reverses direction. The driver switches cabins and the train continues the rest of the journey toward Canfranc in the opposite direction. That means if you sit on the right-hand side with your back to the direction of travel at first, you will end up facing forward and enjoying the best views from Huesca to Canfranc, which is the most scenic part of the ride. Once on board, feel free to move around. If there are empty seats, you can switch sides or grab a better view whenever you like. As we leave Zaragoza, the train makes a few city stops before entering open country. The first stretch takes us through vast plains and cultivated farmland. We're still far from the mountains here. This is also the fastest part of the journey, as the Canfranero picks up speed between Zaragoza and Huesca. When we reach Huesca, the train pulls into the station and, as we mentioned earlier, reverses direction to begin the gradual climb toward the mountains. At first, the scenery remains relatively flat, but it starts getting interesting as we approach the tiny village of Riglos. This is where climbers often hop off to tackle the towering red rock formations known as the Mayos de Riglos, massive vertical walls that mark the foothills of the Pyrenees. From the train, you might catch a glimpse of the Mayos just before and just after the Riglos stop, briefly visible to the right-hand side of the train. But don't expect sweeping views. The track runs so close to the base of the mountains that you are more likely to feel their presence than see their full scale. Right after Riglos, the scenery opens to the left, where you will spot the Gallego River Gorge, a hotspot for whitewater rafting. We even saw a group getting ready to launch into the rapids. Now we are properly entering mountain territory. After passing the scenic Embalse de la Peña reservoir, the Canfranero continues winding through valleys on its way to Sabiñánigo, a small industrial town nestled in the Pyrenees. And then, on your left, watch for a distinct peak, Peña Oroel. That's your sign that we are arriving in Jaca, often called the unofficial capital of the Pyrenees. From Jaca, the final and most spectacular stretch of the journey begins. It's just over half an hour, but if you are anywhere near Jaca, don't miss the chance to ride this part of the Canfranero line. It's a breathtaking ride. As the train leaves Jaca, the landscape shifts quickly. At first, we pass through small villages nestled in the valley, but soon the train begins its climb, winding along the mountainside with curve after curve, tunnel after tunnel, always far above the valley floor. The views are constant and dramatic. You can almost feel the effort of the train as it crawls up the steep slopes toward Canfranc. Along the way, there are a few flag stops, small stations where the train only halts if someone's waiting or a passenger has requested it. If you are wondering where to look, the best views are definitely on the left-hand side. Eventually, with a slight delay, the train rolls into Canfranc station, the final stop on the line, at least for now. We have arrived at the legendary Canfranc International Station, perched 194 meters above sea level, that's nearly 4,000 feet, and surrounded by the towering Pyrenees, the natural border between Spain and France. Before we explore the area around Canfranc, let's go back to something we said earlier, that the train line ends here at least for now, because it wasn't always this way. At the start of the 20th century, Spain and France were determined to connect by rail through the Pyrenees. In 1915, the Somport Tunnel was completed, almost 8 kilometers long, linking both countries beneath the mountains. Then in 1928, an international railway line was inaugurated. For more than 40 years, trains crossed the border through Canfranc until tragedy struck. In 1970, a train accident on the French side destroyed a bridge. It became the perfect excuse for France to shut down a route that had long been running at a loss. The bridge was never rebuilt, and over 50 years later, international train service has never resumed. If you drive along the old line on the French side today, you will still see remnants, bridges, trackbeds, and crumbling stations, silent witnesses to a vanished route. Back in Spain, things were really ambitious. With the tunnel ready, work began in 1923 on a station like no other. The Canfranc International Station opened in 1928, inaugurated by the King of Spain and the President of France. It wasn't just a station, it was a border checkpoint, customs post, hotel, administrative hub, all rolled into one. Because it served two nations, everything had to be duplicated. Spanish and French customs officers, ticketing counters, currency exchange offices, police, postal services, even infirmaries. It was a miniature twin-country terminal, nestled in the Pyrenees. Today the Canfranero pulls into a much smaller terminal, recently restored in a part of the station once used for freight. If you look closely at both ends of the new terminal, you will spot structures that look unfinished. That's deliberate. They are symbolic reminders of what once was and what many hope will return. International trains passing through Canfranc once again. Step outside the station and you will find the monumental building that once served as the passenger terminal. Its sheer size will likely leave you speechless. Among the many times we visited the station, we went there in 2005 when it was still abandoned and crumbling. We're showing you photos from that trip now. Since then, it's been completely restored and transformed into a luxury hotel. The surrounding area has also been revitalized with peaceful gardens and displays of historic railway equipment. It's hard to imagine now, but for decades, this majestic station stood forgotten. Today, it's once again the heart of Canfranc and maybe one day an international terminal once more. If you're doing a day trip from Zaragoza, taking the first train in the morning and returning on the last one in the evening, you will have around 6 hours to explore Canfranc and its surroundings. Everything is easily walkable, and here are our top recommendations to make the most of your time. First of all, step inside the historic hotel. The grand hall of the former passenger station is now part of a luxury hotel, and while much of the hotel is closed to non-guests, you are welcome to step inside the main hall and admire the incredible restoration work, both outside and inside. Just be sure to avoid the check-in area, which is reserved exclusively for guests. If you like to sit down, the hotel's bars are also open to non-guests, ideal for a coffee or a drink. Just bear in mind this is a 5-star plus hotel and prices reflect that. Check out the Canfranc Express. Outside the hotel you will spot two beautifully restored train cars. They house the Canfranc Express, the hotel's Michelin-starred restaurant. If you are interested in dining here, make your reservation well in advance, months ahead, as space is very limited and demand is very high. The peaceful garden area between the modern station terminal and the hotel is a true highlight of Canfranc. It offers lovely mountain views while also serving as a beautiful homage to the station's rich history. You will find carefully restored railway parts scattered throughout the garden, from old carriages to vintage machinery, each telling a piece of Canfranc's story. The space blends nature and history seamlessly, with public artworks inspired by the railway's legacy adding an artistic touch. Many exhibits include QR codes so you can dive deeper into the history of the station. Whether you want a quiet moment surrounded by the Pyrenees or a deeper connection to the railway heritage, this garden is the perfect spot. Near the northern edge of the garden is the entrance to the old International Railway Tunnel. You won't be able to go too far inside as it is closed to the public, but it's fascinating to see. Today it leads to the Canfranc underground laboratory, buried 800 meters under the mountains, where physicists study dark matter and other unusual subjects. If you have time, take a peaceful walk along the promenade of the Melancholics. To get there, walk toward the French border from the tunnel entrance, cross the river through the first bridge on your right, and follow the signs. It is a quiet, wooded trail with beautiful views of the station complex. You can do the full loop, which is quite long, or just walk partway and then return. Across the river from the station, you will find the small village of Canfranc Estación that grew up around the station. A few points of interest. Nuestra Señora del Pilar Church, designed by renowned Spanish architect Miguel Fisac, the town hall, which also houses the tourist office on the ground floor, a bus stop for services going to France, and several small restaurants, bars and shops, as well as a supermarket for anything you might need. During our visit, we had a quick lunch at one of the local restaurants, nothing fancy, just basic fare, perfect for a casual break. Canfranc is not a place of big attractions, but the surroundings and slow pace are part of the charm. If you understand Spanish, don't miss the guided tour organized by the tourist office. It's very affordable and times change throughout the year, with more options in summer. We'll include a link in the first comment below the video so you can check schedules. The tour adds a whole new layer to your visit. You will hear about the station's key role during World War II, a crossroads for Nazis, spies, smugglers, and refugees fleeing the Holocaust. It's a real-life spy story set in the Pyrenees. If Spanish isn't your strong suit, don't worry, find a bench, enjoy the mountain air, and soak in the quiet atmosphere. Eventually, it will be time to return to the modern station to embark on the train back to Zaragoza. If you sat on the left side for the outward journey, to enjoy the best views, now you will want to sit on the right-hand side for the ride back. Depending on the time of the year, it might be dark by the time you return. We did this trip in June, and thanks to the long summer days, we arrived back in Zaragoza well after 9 p.m, just as the sun was setting. And now, some practical information to help you plan your trip. Since the ticket price is fixed and does not include seat reservations, there is no need to buy it in advance. You can purchase tickets easily on the Renfe website, throughout the train line, or at the ticket machines at the station. Right now, a return trip costs 27 euros. If you want to make a same-day round trip from Zaragoza, your options are limited. There are only 2 trains per day in each direction, so you will need to take the first train out in the morning and return on the last train back in the evening. You might be wondering if you can hop off at stops like Riglos or Jaca and catch a later train to continue your journey. Unfortunately, that's not possible. There's basically only 1 other train per day in each direction. However, if you want to extend your trip, consider this. Buy first a one-way ticket from Zaragoza to Canfranc, then a second ticket from Canfranc to Jaca. Spend the night in lovely Jaca, then continue your journey back to Zaragoza the next afternoon with a third Jaca to Zaragoza ticket. Whether it's a slow scenic trip like the Canfranero we have shown you, or a high-speed ride, train travel in Spain is a real passion of ours. On the screen now you will find our collection of videos designed to make your train journeys easier and more enjoyable. We can't wait to see you there.